and sisters had this opportunity to work towards an education that wasn't always availed to everyone, right? It wasn't availed to very many at all in her environment, but she had that desire. She said, I am going to read, and I am going to educate myself, and I am going to have a higher education, and then I am going to teach others. I mean, that is so amazing and so beautiful. So not only did she have her own thirst for education, she had a thirst to educate others. And so her statue will be the only statue in the U.S. Capitol of a man or woman in a cap and gown. And she'll be the first. She won't be the last, right?
That's right.
But she is the first African American in the U.S. Capitol statuary state collection. So in the statuary hall, there are 2 statues from every state that are spread throughout the U.S. Capitol now. It began in 1864 as statues to go into Statuary Hall, that round room just off of the round rotunda. But as the statues came from different states, they realized they were running out of room. But it's our hope that Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune will stand in Statuary Hall. The Statuary Hall room is where we want her to stand prominently for the rest of the world to see. But how beautiful it is that the state of Florida is placing the first Black American as a part of the state collection. There are 4 other African Americans within the state capitol, there are 4 African Americans within the U.S. Capitol. Rosa Parks was unveiled in 2013 by President Obama, and she represents all states. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the February 1st, 2023 meeting of the Daytona Beach City Commission. We're delighted to have each of you with us. At this time, I would ask that our clerk, Ms. LaMagna, review the procedures for tonight's meeting.
Okay, I'm going to do the roll call, which is Commissioner Paris. Here. Commissioner Strickland.
Here.
Commissioner May. Here. Commissioner Cantu.
Here.
Commissioner Henry. Present. Commissioner Reed.
Here.
Mayor Derek L. Henry.
Here. We will now have the invocation led by Commissioner Strickland, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Paris.
Heavenly Father, we ask that you watch over us tonight as we go through this meeting to do the bidding for the residents of the city of Daytona Beach. Help us to make the right decisions as we go along. We ask that we pray that you would look after the less fortunate in our city and help us to do the right things along those lines as well. Watch over, guide, and keep everyone in this meeting. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We're going to move on to item 4, which is approval of the minutes of the December 21st, 2022, the January 4th, 2023 City Commission meeting, and the January 11th, 2023 Bike Week Master Plan Workshop.
So moved.
We'll take the motion from Commissioner Cantu. And the second, was it you?
It was me.
It was May first? Who made the first motion?
Did you say something again, too?
Yeah.
Commissioner May? And now we'll take a second from Commissioner Cantu. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. We'll now move on to agenda item number 5. It is our agenda approval. If there are any changes, our city manager will address them.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, we do have some changes. We're having a presentation by Pop Warner Football that will be under 6. We also, item 8E, Planning Board appointments. Commissioner Paris would like to nominate Vernon Weatherhalts to the Planning Board representing Zone 1. Remove item 8F, Police Department Halifax Humane Society Animal Services Agreement. Item 10I, Code Enforcement Board appointment, appointing 1 member to the Code Enforcement Board. There's 1 position available, and we have 3 applicants, Kevin Leclerc, Thomas Megan, and Jessica Blodgett from Zone 6. So Zone 6, Zones 4, and Zone 6. That concludes the changes.
Motion approved.
We have a motion and we have a second. Motion from Commissioner Henry, second from Commissioner Reed. No additional questions. All those in favor, let it be denoted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those in opposition, same sign. This motion carries 7-0.
Okay, so we're going to add on the Pop Warner Football presentation.
Mr. Who's is Pop Warner, you are welcome to have the floor, and you are always welcome in the chambers. Glad to see you all.
Good evening, Mayor Henry,
evening.
City Commissioners, City Manager, and the support staff that supports us each year. I bring you greetings from Daytona Beach Pop Warner Football and Cheer. We want to take this time to thank you for your support during this past year. We also thank you for your continued support each and every year, which in turn enables us to serve the children of our community. Daytona Beach Pop Warner serves between 200 to 250 children each year. The board continues to work hard to support our community as we build strong families, which are the most important ingredient for our children to be successful. Without strong families, our society will continue to decline, and we will do all that we can to intercede so that does not happen. We will do what we can to support our children and our families and our community. We have great hope that your assistance will continue to be a source of assistance to our families with children by being role models, positive examples, and assisting in whatever capacity we can, not only during football season, but during the entire year. We come tonight to say thank you for all that you do for the children in our community. We would not be able to do what we do without your support. So in a small way, we would like to present each of you with a token of our appreciation. We could never repay you, but we can show our appreciation for all that you do. All of our payments will come when our children grow up to be the productive citizens in our society and continue to make us proud. And if you guys would come down if you wish, we would like to offer you a token.
That's all
Also,
of us.
if Keith Willis, Joe Torillo, Andrew Powell, Vincent Terry, and Charles Bethune will come forward as well.
Mrs. Rowland,
Yep.
I have a check for you all as well. It's not on me. I was digging through my bag.
Ms. Traeger, if you would join us, because when we did
Yeah,
our
we can get
trophies,
rid of
you were actually on the commission at that time, so if you'll come as well.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a support staff that is there for us on a weekly basis, late at night, early in the morning. They set the fields up for us. They make our job so much easier. So to Mr. Joe Torillo, we appreciate your assistance as well. Mr. Keith Willis, who's always there for us. Mr. Vincent Terry, and Mr. Charles Bethune, and Mr. Stacy Beckton. These guys, we call them at night, in the mornings, on the weekends, and they never, ever tell us no. So we do support all that you all do for us.
Y'all stay up here too. Just stay right there.
Okay, and to our mayor, we thank you. We call you all the time, and you come to our rescue, and we appreciate it. To our city manager, we always call you, and your workers call you, and you always answer our call as well. To Ms. Traeger, when we took this on last year, we ordered our plaques before November, so we appreciate your support as well, and we wish you well as you go on other endeavors. We thank you very much. Okay. Ms. Paula Reed, we thank you for your support. When we call you guys never tell us no. To Ms. Danette Henry, who is always at our field. She comes out and she tells us what we're doing wrong and what we're doing right. And but she always supports our kids. She tells us our cheerleaders need this, that, or the other. And we always listen to her. But she's one of our gold sponsors as well. And Mr. Strickland, we thank you as well for all that you do for Daytona Beach Pop Warner. And our children appreciate what you do. Ms. Stacey Cantu, we appreciate you as well. So we thank you so much for all that you do for Daytona Beach Pop Warner. And we pray that you will continue to support us. And most of us on the board do not have children that are in Pop Warner. We have one person that's here that has children in Pop Warner. The rest of us are volunteers with no children. My baby's 36. He's been gone a long time ago. But I do it because we need to build our children up and let them know we are here to support them. Because without us being in their lives, not that they won't make it, but it'll make a difference in their lives. So let them know we want to always do what's best for them. So we thank you so very much.
We see you on the sidelines.
Excuse me?
We see you on all the sidelines. Could you all turn around this way?
And we thank you all for what you do as well.
Ma'am, turn. One, two, three. 1, 2, 3. I'm not taking it, but this is how I get you to turn. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
I would like to express our gratitude for the work that you all do with Pop Warner. Pop Warner's been around in the community a long time, and I know Mr. Rowland has been with the program, and Mrs. Rowland. I'm not gonna call the number, but I won't say it's too long, but I know for you it's a labor of love, and I cannot begin to say to this community how many lives have been touched, some cases saved, because of your work and what you all are willing to do on a regular basis, year after year after year. And so, as mayor and on behalf of the city, we say to you all, thank you for thinking of us and showing your appreciation to us. But we appreciate what you do, because you are truly making Daytona Beach a better place. And so, thank you. All right.
Okay, we're going to move on to item number 7, which is citizen comments. During this time, citizens have the opportunity to address the City Commission on any item that's on the consent agenda. Our first speaker is John Nicholson, and on deck is Frederick Brown.
Well, that's nice. Good job.
John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. Many years ago, when they were looking to redo the building at Midtown, I mentioned the fact that there were 400 kids playing Pop Warner
You did.
on the field,
You have.
and the city decided to chase them out and send them somewhere else and put a ditch in their place. So I'm asking you, especially with what you've just heard, to think about filling in that ditch. I know it's costly, but they need a field there. There were 400 kids. I'd rather have 400 kids playing football than 10 kids playing tennis. So think about returning Pop Warner to Midtown. Secondly, the plaza at the Promenade, I don't know who Judge Graham is from A Hole in the Wall. Warren said, oh yeah, he's very popular. Everybody knows him. I'm like, no. I've only been here 40 years, and occasionally I come to city commission meetings, and he's never, ever been mentioned. So what is and who are going to be in the plaza? I know there are 6 stanchions there for bus or whatever, but we've never determined, or I have never heard, of who we are going to put there and what the qualifications are going to be. So I'd like to find out who and what will happen to that plaza. Thank you.
Okay. Our next speaker is Frederick Brown.
Frederick Brown, 1508 Crescent Ridge. Yeah, and to follow up what he said, and amend to put that in there. Judge Graham obviously has a lot of great credentials, but he is a son of Ormond Beach, not Daytona Beach. So I just want to point that out. As he mentioned, there is 6 slots, and we're using one for the son of Ormond Beach, not of Daytona Beach. So, once again, I'm going to voice my concern about us handing out checks to law firms without an itemized billing that says who's getting what. So I know item 8A, you're handing out another check for a legal incident. Obviously, it happened a few years back, but once again, it would be nice to know how much the litigant is getting and how much the costs are, legal costs are. Also, on item 8D, I want to point out how important this department is. And I've been working with my commissioner, Commissioner Paris. Up until just a few days ago, there wasn't even a link on the city page. And a lot of the minutes and agendas are missing from over the years. So this is a very important part of the city. I'd like to see that the rest of the website get cleaned up so that all that information is available to us citizens in making the right decisions on our parks and recreation. One other thing too, I want to amend to edit. You're doing the evaluation on the seawall, and I hope that that continues through to the Aura Park area. But I have provided you all, I don't know if they've all been distributed, the Dutch answer that I've been talking about for the last few months of what we really need to do. And I think you should watch the video links that I put in there and look at the architecture and stuff with what they did with seawalls in there. That is a real answer to the problem, because again, throwing a Band-Aid on an amputation does not work very well. So please, those papers that I distributed, I know I handed them out in person over here. But if you get a chance to watch those videos, a 60-minute special on it was excellent. And the Dutch ambassador is really on the ball as far as doing the right thing for what we really need to do for our seawalls in the city. So thank you very much.
Can I say one thing? Mr. Jagger, I know we addressed this once before about legal fees. We do not know how much the client and the attorney, their medical, correct?
We don't, and
Right.
this case is an example. The medical fees in this case were $78,000. The settlement was $30,000, so those medical fees need to be reduced. In a state law case like this, the attorney's fees are limited to 25% of the settlement.
Okay, thank you.
And if I may also say, Mr. Mayor, our website is under construction, and it says that when you go to the government page, it leads you to another page where you can address the most current, I believe in the last year, agendas and what have you. And the old stuff is still out there, but it does indicate that it's under construction to bring something better and brighter for our citizens.
Thank you.
I just wanted to also address, it is being addressed, maybe because it changed from leisure services to parks and recreation. I think there was like maybe miscommunication, but it's being worked on.
Is that for consent item? Let's see. And my final speaker on the consent agenda is Marjorie Johnson, who's speaking on 8A, I believe.
Marjorie Johnson, 122 South G Street. I'm here tonight to address 8A. I'm concerned about all these lawsuits that we're getting. Every other meeting I come to, there's a lawsuit on the agenda. And there's one here, this same attorney here. I was involved in a case with Thomas Huger, who sued the city for hardcore discrimination, and you got rid of him. And the people subpoenaed me to come there. I went, and I did testify to the fact that there is things that need to be corrected here in the city. This same law firm, they seem to get all the cases. But I would like to see a breakdown of these fees that we are paying out at the city. Thomas Huger got a big amount for hardcore discrimination. That was under the former city manager, where he had been abused at this city, and they kept running up to my house to bring me a subpoena since I'm the former president of the NAACP and an expert on discrimination and hardcore racism. So I like to see this city do something about these lawsuits and these injuries that these people are sustaining here. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. If you can come and do something about this and correct these problems that we are having at this place here, and we should get a breakdown on these fees that are going to the attorney. Chanfrau and Chanfrau, PA, is getting rich over the city of Daytona. So I would say to all of you tonight to try to do something about all these lawsuits that's coming through here, because that's taken away from the funds, and we need those funds for other things. The flooding problem has not been fixed. People are running to my house and saying, these people have a marriage challenge. Why don't they have a flood challenge and do something about this flooding? So we have to resolve all of the problems that's coming before us. You're here to do the people's work, and I would like to see you get rid of these lawsuits and also to address the breakdown on these fees, because we cannot continue to pay out lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. And there was many that Chanfrau and Chanfrau, PA, is getting rich off the city of Daytona. So let's fix this problem. Thank you.
That was my final speaker for the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Reed and a second from Commissioner Cantu. Do we have any additional questions or comments? All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay. We're going to move on to item number 9, which is our public hearings. Item 9A is Growth Management and Planning Department, Third Amendment to the HHMC PD. This is an ordinance on second reading, quasi-judicial hearing. An ordinance approving the Third Amendment to the HHMC Plan Development Agreement to reconfigure an existing parcel within the development agreement into separate lots and to provide access for these lots to the public road system, authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute the Third Amendment, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
So move.
We have a motion from Commissioner Cantu and a second from Commissioner Reed.
And I do have is it Ariel McCann? McCann, I'm sorry, on behalf of the applicant, if there are any questions.
Do we have any questions? No questions? Thank you, Ms. McCann. All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those who are in opposition, same sign. This motion carries 7-0.
Okay. Moving on to item 9B, it's the Growth Management and Planning Department, Daytona Hyundai Genesis PD. This is an ordinance on second reading, quasi-judicial hearing. An ordinance amending the zoning map of the Land Development Code to rezone 8.5 plus or minus acres of property located at 650 North Nova Road from PDG Plan Development General to PDG Plan Development General. Approving the Daytona Hyundai Genesis Plan District Agreement to allow for redevelopment of the site to include a customer and inventory display parking lot to support the automobile dealerships located at the site and to the north of the site, subject to certain conditions. Authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute the agreement, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
So move.
Second.
Boy, that was slow. Commissioner Cantu will take the motion, and Commissioner Strickland will take the second.
Okay. And I do have Mr. Rob Merrill here on behalf of the applicant for any questions.
All right, we have no questions. All right, let's see how fast this goes. We have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 9C. I give them all a second to exit the building. Moving on to item 9C, it's the Utilities Department, ordinance amending Chapter 98, City Code of Ordinances. This is an ordinance on second reading, public hearing. An ordinance amending Section 98-31 to include connection fees in Sections 98-250 and 98-252 to define capital facility fees as connection fees, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Paris and a second from Commissioner Cantu.
I have no speakers signed up for this item, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, all those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, moving on to item 9D, it's the Growth Management and Planning Department, definition of family, Land Development Code text amendment. This is an ordinance on second reading, public hearing. An ordinance amending the City Land Development Code, amending LDC Section 11.5, containing definitions by amending the definitions of family and dwelling unit and creating definition of household, amending LDC Section 5.3.c, providing specific standards for accessory dwelling units, ADUs, by requiring that ADUs shall be occupied by a single household, amending LDC Section 5.5.a, restricting occupancy of dwelling units and replacing the term family with household, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Reed and a second from Commissioner Paris.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, you have a speaker?
I don't have any speakers. What I was gonna say.
Could the attorney just give us a layman's term of what this change is so that the community will know?
Sure, I'll defer to Mr. Morris.
Okay.
Mayor, Commission members, Jim Morris, Deputy City Manager. Commissioner Reed, you asked if I could distinguish between the current definition and the one on the agenda tonight. The one in the code right now presently is referred to as functional family, and it has to do with associations of people without limit on number, associating as a family, and the characteristics that you would have of a family. And actually, when we were going over this today, I said the Manson family would fit the definition. And that's the truth. It actually would. But the proposed change is to set a numeric limit of 6, and there's been research done by legal staff regarding 6 versus 5 versus 4. And from a national standards perspective, it appears that 6 is the most common choice of defining people related or associating as a family up to a maximum of 6. And that is the intention of the definition, to change it from the functional family, which really has no numerical end. Also very hard to discern. Could we say that you're a family or that you're all separate individuals? And there's argument that you could make either way. So from an enforcement perspective and clear definition of a family occupancy versus an association of a bunch of people in a place simply there because that's the way it works out from a rent perspective, that's the intention of the definition, to make a more clear, ascertainable definition of a family occupation versus a group of people simply taking over a structure without limit in the number. Jagger, does that cover it? I don't think he heard me. You think that's satisfactory?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, sir. Mayor, Commissioner, questions?
No additional questions? Okay.
Thank you, sir.
All right, we have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, we're going to move on to item 9E, which is the Growth Management and Planning Department Daytona Lakes RV Resort Large-Scale Comprehensive Plan Amendment. This is an introduction of an ordinance on first reading public hearing. An ordinance adopting large-scale comprehensive plan amendments in accordance with Chapter 163, Part 2 Florida statute, amending the future land use map designation of 179.8 plus acres of property located south of US 92 West International Speedway Boulevard, east of Roosevelt Boulevard, north of the Interstate 4 corridor, and west of the access ramp for Interstate 4 at US 92 International Speedway Boulevard, from Volusia County low-impact urban and urban low-intensity to city mixed use, amending the future land use element neighborhood V development policy to limit development intensity for the property, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
And let me point out that this is a public hearing, so we will take public comment if there is any, and that we will require a motion to pass on first reading.
Okay. I don't have any speakers for this item.
So move.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Cantu and a second from Commissioner Reed. No additional questions or comments? All right. Yeah, all those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
The second public hearing and final action will be April 5th, 2023. So we're going to move on to item number 10, which is our administrative items. Item 10A is the City Manager's Office Affordable Housing Advisory Board Appointment Resolution. A resolution appointing a city commissioner as a member of the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee for a 2-year term expiring October 1st, 2024, in accordance with Section 420.9076 of the Florida statutes, and appointing the commissioner referenced above to attend biannual workshops required by the SHIP Act on the city's behalf, and providing an effective date.
Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, the two individuals that serve at your desire is Commissioner Henry and Commissioner May. Commissioner Henry did state that she would be willing to take the alternate role and allow for Commissioner May to be the lead on this because last year she served in that capacity. So if they wanted to swap that, it's okay in the for this particular item.
Would you like to serve? Okay. Well, we just need a motion to that effect.
Second.
Have a motion, have a second.
And I do have one speaker. That was a motion by Commissioner Reed, I'm sorry, and Cantu. Okay. And I do have one speaker, Miss Marjorie Johnson. Did you want to speak on this? 8A and 10A? Okay, then I do. Okay.
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 Okay. All right, we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those in opposition, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay. So we're going to move on to item 10B. It's the Growth Management and Planning Department, Daytona Lakes RV Resort Voluntary Annexation. This is an introduction of an ordinance on first reading. An ordinance annexing into the city of Daytona Beach land containing 179.73 plus or minus acres of property generally located south of US 92 West International Speedway Boulevard, north of Interstate 4, east of Roosevelt Boulevard, and west of the municipal boundary, redefining the territorial boundaries of the city of Daytona Beach to include the property, redesignating the boundaries of Zone 4 of the city of Daytona Beach to include the property, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date. And are there any questions or comments from the commission on this item?
Nope. Okay.
Okay. The public hearing and final action is April 5th, 2023. Moving on to item 10C, it is the Growth Management and Planning Department, 326 South Grandview, Small Scale Comprehensive Plan Amendment, and this is an introduction of an ordinance on first reading. An ordinance adopting a small scale comprehensive plan amendment in accordance with section 163.3187 of the Florida statutes, amending the future land use map designation of 1.04 plus or minus acres of property generally located southwest of the intersection of East International Speedway Boulevard and south of Grandview Avenue from level 2 residential L2R to retail, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date. And are there any questions or comments from the commission on this item? Okay, so the public hearing and final action on this ordinance is set for February 15th. Okay. And we're going to move on to item 10D. It's a Growth Management and Planning Department, Waypoint Community Development District, CDD. This is an introduction of an ordinance on first reading. An ordinance granting the petition of Culture Group Acquisitions, LLC, for establishment of a community development district, creating and establishing the Waypoint Community Development District, providing for name, powers, and duties, providing description and boundaries, providing initial members of the Board of Supervisors, providing severability, and providing an effective date. Are there any questions or comments from the commission on this item? We do have the applicant here for any questions. Okay, so the public hearing and final action on this item is set for February 15th. Okay, moving on to item 10E. It's the Growth Management and Planning Department, Second Amendment to Memorial Health Systems, Inc., PD. This is an introduction of an ordinance on first reading. An ordinance approving the Second Amendment to the Memorial Health Systems, Inc. Planned District Agreement to add an electronic message center sign and signage for Surgery Center, and to provide language in addressing the completion of Memorial Medical Parkway to Strickland Range Road, authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute the Second Amendment, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date. And are there any questions or comments from the commission on this item? We do have a Deanna Kaufman, part of the applicant, for any questions. Okay. The public hearing and final adoption of the ordinance will be February 15th. Okay, moving on to item 10F, it's the Growth Management and Planning Department Bike Week 2023 Master Plan for Private Property. This is a resolution. A resolution approving the Bike Week 2023 Master Plan for outside activities on private property, authorizing outside activities during Bike Week 2023 on private property located on Main Street, Peninsula Drive, Halifax Avenue, Fairview Avenue, Beach Street, Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune Boulevard, Martin Luther King Boulevard, Fulton Street, Weaver Street, McLeod Avenue, Walnut Street, and Oak Street, pursuant to Land Development Code Section 5.4.C.11 and the Bike Week Master Plan Guidelines, subject to conditions, and providing an effective date.
So move.
So that was,
We have a motion from Commissioner Cantu and a second from Commissioner Reed.
I do have speakers for this item, Mr. Mayor. Our first speaker is Ann Ruby, and on deck is John Nicholson.
All right, Ann Ruby, 136 Park Avenue, no, 137 Park Avenue. There is no doubt you will pass this edition of the Bike Week Master Plan. There is also no doubt this edition continues to highlight the deficits of the current guidelines and the process used to review and enforce them. This edition of the Master Plan still has some notable errors, particularly with item 22. There are 5 applications for this festival. Most of the applications include RV parking. Per the LDC on festivals, all outside activities shall be designed to promote interest in year-round activity in the area. How has this semi-annual festival of RV parking promoted year-round interest? The application for 321 Weaver Street refers to the abutting property. The owners are simply listed as Peter, Larry, and Henry, and the ownership information is not clear. The application for 556 MMB is called Munch Shop, which sounds like a food business. The diagram shows retail and food vending, but no food license is included with the application, nor is ownership interest information included. The application for a food court has no address or location. The parcel ID shows it to be a vacant residential lot at the southeast corner of MMB and Walnut. The owner is a realty trust, but there is no lessor agreement. The diagram is inadequate, and there are no food licenses. The master plan guidelines only allow food courts when associated with an existing business with a food license. If this festival is not bound by the master plan, why is it included? At least 5 applications include RV parking. RV parking is not specifically prohibited by the master plan, but city ordinances have stringent requirements for temporary overnight RV parking. There are 10 restrictions listed, including a prohibition of parking RVs on any lot that adjoins a residential parcel, a minimum lot size of 3.5 acres, and a location that must be within 1 mile of the Speedway PD boundary. While these ordinances appear to be related to Speedway events, they are the only ordinances I found, and none of them are being applied during the master plan review. Why not? Are there others I couldn't find? Here's the $64,000 question. If these applications are reviewed both by the city staff and the chamber or the CVB, where's the accountability? It's too easy to sidestep accountability with dual oversight. When too many people are responsible, no one is accountable. It's time to take the chamber and the CVB out of the application review process. It's time to rewrite the master plan guidelines. It's time to use bike events and festivals to foster redevelopment in our blighted neighborhoods.
Our next speaker is John Nicholson.
John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. Although I agree with a lot of what Ann said, I like the idea of the chamber and the CVB controlling these 2 events because they help the city. They do the groundwork, they do the legwork, and then they present it. They've done a good job of it, except with anything else, over time, things have changed, and they haven't changed with it. So I absolutely agree with her that there needs to be a time to look at our relationship with the CVB and the chamber and look at what they're accepting and what they're not accepting and whether it's acceptable to the city. The things that I want to speak about is we had a workshop, and I'm sorry I was disappointed in the workshop because we spent a lot of time on parking and what seemed to be degrading the neighborhood by allowing parking anywhere they choose. What really we need on Main Street is it's changing. They're aging out. The north of Main Street is going high end. Hopefully, Seabreeze will change to be high end. What this street needs is bodies, year-round bodies. And the Main Street Bike Week prevents year-round. What I'm asking you is, I've been before you for 20 years asking about liquor licenses. Well, it's time to either have liquor licenses or not. All these restaurants like Froggy's that serve no food, we have to end. They either throw out the 500-foot and let everybody be a restaurant or everybody be a liquor store, whichever they want to be, that's most successful to them. We need this street for the city of Daytona Beach. We need the street for the convention center. When those people leave, they need a place to go. And this is the ideal place. We have, 10 million tourists? They should be coming to this street. Every convention, they should be coming to this street to eat, drink, and be entertained. So I ask you to look again and have a conversation with the CVB and the chamber. What do we want and what do we expect? Thank you.
That were my final, only 2 speakers on this particular item.
All right, do we have any questions for staff? No questions for staff. All right.
SAMA, which is Turner Himes, also referred to by Ms. Ruby as 22, brought in the paperwork to confirm authorization and ownership of the properties, I think, prior to this agenda. This happened just today. I think prior to this agenda, we had not received that information from Ms. Himes, but she did deliver it today. You may know she's been quite ill, and I know she's been hospitalized quite a bit as well. So, I'm sorry. She's here. I didn't see her.
Yeah, she is here.
So,
Okay.
I know that she brought her work in, and she's done.
And that's all good. She's
Yes,
been
thank you.
doing it. We're not
And
going
that was
to
maybe
beat her
not
up.
clear in the agenda.
Okay, all right.
And
We
she's
have
an
a-
applicant, this is part of the motion, her property we approved as part of the.
Prior to this evening, it was shown to be excluded for failure to comply with the standards. Ms. Himes has done that now.
So the motion.
So is it, do
reflects
we
her.
need to have the motion reflect her inclusion, or is it
The motion
already?
should reflect it for purposes of clarity. Yes, sir.
Yes, let's make,
Commissioner Cantu and made the motion, and Commissioner Reed made the second.
I made a motion. Okay, can we amend that to reflect?
okay.
The motion would be to include SAMA in approval by virtue of their compliance with the requirements. SAMA is also known as Mrs. Himes.
Okay.
And to include what he said, salmon. Okay.
All right, you have a motion, you have a second. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to say something. I'd like to commend Ms. Ruby on her research in regards to this. We know that there's a lot of work that needs to be done, hence why we had a workshop. And I'm sure we'll be meeting again to discuss how to proceed with this. So citizens know that it's not a done data.
And I would like to say something too. We concentrate on Bike Week. That happens once a year. We need to leave Bike Week alone because it works and concentrate the rest of the year.
Okay. All right, we have a motion, we've already voted on it, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Go ahead.
So we're going to move on to item 10G. It's Growth Management and Planning Department Bike Week 2023 Master Plan for Public Property Resolution. A resolution relating to Bike Week 2023, providing for motorcycle-only traffic and parking in various locations, suspending parking regulations in the commercial areas of the Controlled Parking District from March 3rd through March 12th, 2023, in accordance with Section 94-218D of the City Code, authorizing the city to operate paid parking lots at various locations in the Main Street area, authorizing various activities on the public property, and providing an effective date.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Cantu and a second from Commissioner Reed. Do we have any questions or comments?
And I don't have speakers for this item.
All right. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay. We're going to move on to item 10H. It's a Growth Management and Planning Department temporary parking and outside activities associated with Bike Week 2023 Master Plan Resolution. A resolution authorizing temporary event parking on various properties during Bike Week 2023 in accordance with Section 5.4.C.11 of the City Land Development Code, establishing conditions and providing an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Parrish and a second from Commissioner Cantu.
I do have speakers on this item, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Okay. Our first speaker is Sandy Murphy, who lives at 136 Park Avenue. And on deck is Amy Pyle.
Thank you for the reminder. Sandra Murphy, 136 Park Avenue. First, kudos to the staff for making progress towards getting proof that people who are applying under this Bike Week Master Plan actually own the property for which they're applying. That's important. And with the exception of the Traeger's parcels and those two properties at Santa, what was given out with the agenda was tied in to the actual application. I hope you will continue to push towards creating a level playing field for everybody that's part of the Bike Week Master Plan. You made progress, and I hope it continues. Item 10H is titled Temporary Parking and Outside Activities Associated with the Bike Week Master Plan, but there are two applications, Traeger's and SAMA, that are lumped in with 10F.
BMW for private property, although they also have RV parking. In the case of Traeger's application, RV parking exclusively. This matters because it appears that those two applicants for RV parking addressed in 10F aren't being held to the same stringent standards for amenities and safety as part of their agreement, or at least that's what the supporting documents show. Those stringent requirements are part of the LDC rules for temporary RV parking, so they should be a requirement for anyone who wants to provide RV parking. But I ask you to consider overall whether RV parking is really the type of uplifting use we are looking for in our CRA. I understand that this option has been a financial boon to certain organizations and individuals over the years, but I don't think that this choice is defensible in the big picture. We need changes that will help our CRAs to thrive. In both the Mary McLeod Bethune and Main Street CRAs, we continue to incentivize the use of vacant land for parking when a more comprehensive long-term strategy is called for. I hope you'll continue the conversation that you recently started and that you'll think in terms of long-term prosperity for the CRA. Consistency and fairness are part of making this a professionally managed event. If we are trying to use Bike Week in part to bring positive changes to our CRAs, let's present that professional face to the public. And going forward, think critically about what uses we should support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Amy Pyle.
Hello, Amy Pyle, 136 South Grandview. One thing really quickly about the item 10F, there were food permits also that were not in there, that like if anyone on Main Street has a food vendor, they have to have food permits or an associated food business, and those were missing as well. It wasn't just the ownership. The Masterplan Task Force is supposed to prepare an annual report with recommendations, and the city is supposed to hold a community workshop, an open community workshop, every 3 years, and I've never seen one of those. With the help of C4RD, Ann and Sandy, I have made some recommendations as the lone resident representative on the task force since about 2016. There's supposed to be 3 resident representatives on the task force. One of the recommendations we have discussed with staff is to pull parking completely from the master plan, reducing the master plan to only vending, food, and entertainment. I'd like to explain. Number one, an example of how it should be done is the Methodist Church at Harvey, which has gone directly through permits and licensing every year with no issues. Other churches do the same. Number two, parking lots that already have a license for pay parking, like Mr. Bittorf's, should not be included in the master plan. There is no need to extend the master plan area for him or others like him to do parking during the event. Number three, temporary parking permits for empty lots need much more consideration. The redevelopment department should establish guidelines with a view to building and improving the area and review all temporary permits. These permits would be treated the same on 4th of July, New Year's, or any other special events. Number four, larger lot assemblages should be established for year-round pay parking use by reducing requirements. Simple improvements such as clear borders, uniform, permeable surface, and good signage should be a minimum. These lots should not be allowed to do strictly event parking unless they're open year-round, thus solving the current parking deficit. And there would then be no need to include them in the master plan. LDC Section 5413 already has guidelines for temporary parking lots associated with a development that could be modified. Number five, overnight camping, RV camping should never be allowed as a temporary outside activity, but only permitted in designated RV parking facilities with hookups. Number six, individual lots adjacent to residential property and front yards should not be permitted for pay special event parking, except if that parcel is specifically identified in the master plan guidelines, like in Section 5. We recommend a change to identify all eligible properties and not just the streets. So, here, these properties, not just the street name. Right now, the guidelines are not being followed and the oversight is less than stellar, resulting in an ongoing blight that nobody can seem to explain. I think we can do that. Thank you.
And that was my final speaker on this item, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Do we have any additional questions? Ms. Parrish?
Can we address what she was talking about with the permits for the food? Were those provided as well?
Good evening, Rose Askew, Growth Management and Planning Project Manager. I work with Mr. Morris in managing Bike Week and Biketoberfest. Food permits for properties on Main Street or anywhere in the city, if you have a food license, it is automatically placed in there and we require that. The state of Florida allows people who want to serve food during special events, they have an inspector that comes through the event the day the event starts when they set up, and they issue temporary food permits. And we have no control over that at all. That's not anything that the city can do about that, because we've already asked that question. So if you're a vendor or something on a property and you want to be able to have food, when the inspector comes through for the state, they issue those temporary food permits that day right there on the spot. And we've had multiple conversations with them. We work with the state of Florida to make sure that we are meeting all the criteria that they have required us to have in place in order for the vendors and the property owners to be able to have food during the event. In relationship to this particular item, this item is a separate item because all of these applications that we are processing are properties that came through the special event process. They were not part of the master plan. Ms. Himes and the Traegers applied through the chamber with the Biketoberfest master plan application. Churches and nonprofits are allowed as part of the master plan to be able to come through and request to be able to have special events and parking and stuff on their property during the master plan. That's in our city's land development code. So all of the items you see on this list, each of these applicants paid either $75 application fee if they're a church or a nonprofit, or $1,100 to apply to be part of this event, because that is what our land development code currently requires them to do. So that's why it's a completely separate item, because they didn't apply through the master plan. So we have to show it as parking associated with the master plan. Additionally, all of these that you all see used to be part of the SAMA application. When we recently found out that a lot of the public plan was on private property, we had a meeting last year with all of the applicants who had applied, and in that meeting we explained to them what the process was, because the public plan is only to have vending and stuff on public streets. These are private property owners that were being processed under that, and we explained to them that the city's actual process for that is for you to be able to either, if you're in the boundaries, to apply through the master plan. If you're not, you have to apply through the process in our land development code. So if you're not within the boundaries and you want to, you apply through our land development code to be able to do the things that you want to do, and that's what these applications are. These are properties that used to be processed through the SAMA's public plan, but they were all private property, so they now have to follow the criteria to be able to apply individually. That's why you all haven't seen individual applications before.
Commissioner Parrish, do you know what SAMA is? Second Avenue Merchants
Merchants
Association.
Association, yes. So there's different requirements for private property and also for commercial. So that's why, so if it's a private property, they don't need to provide this food certificate?
All of these applications on F that you are on the one that you're looking at now for parking,
Right.
there's no food, it's only parking. It's either parking of vehicles for daily parking or RV parking. These are all properties that have always been part of the master plan. They were just processed under the Second Avenue Merchants Association public plan, but they're private, so they weren't supposed to be processed that way.
Are we still talking about the food permits? No.
No.
We're talking about parking.
No, the food permits are
yeah.
done through the state. We don't have any control over that. They were asking questions. For every property that has a restaurant license for food, it's part of the master plan. If it's not one there, it's not the property owner typically that's doing the food, the vendor is doing it, and the state of Florida comes out and does the inspection of the vendor prior to the event, and they issue them a temporary food permit just for Bike Week or Biketoberfest.
Are we checking that?
Yes, ma'am, we do.
We do check all that.
Yes, ma'am, we do.
Yeah, Commissioner Parrish, Ms. Askew is on parole, on patrol. She's on patrol during Bike Week. Freudian slip.
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to point out is we did listen. If you look at your packets now, all of the parking information has the street names. It has the information on there relating to how many spaces they're going to be providing. It shows the boundaries for it. It shows where restrooms are going to be provided, where washing stations. So we made sure when we had our public meeting on December 9th, all of that information was disseminated. And as a result, the original application packet that came in got updated, and it shows all of that detail that was requested. You're welcome.
All right,
I have no more speakers.
no other speakers. All right, who was the motion? Commissioner Cantu?
Or Commissioner Paris was the
Paris.
motion, Commissioner Cantu was the
And
second.
Cantu, okay. All right, we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those who are opposed, same sign. This motion carries 7-0.
Okay. We're going to move on to item 10I, which was added to our agenda tonight. It's a City Manager's Office Code Enforcement Board appointment resolution. A resolution appointing one member to the Code Enforcement Board for a 3-year term ending August 23rd, 2025, and providing an effective date. Ms. Betty Goodman to report.
Good evening. This agenda item is to appoint one member to the Code Enforcement Board. There is one available position, and we have 3 applicants. Kevin Leclerc, Thomas Mahagan, and Jessica Blodgett. And Mr. Mayor, with your approval, if we could vote by show of hands.
Sure.
Okay, so Kevin Leclerc is the first
If you want me to, Betty, I can go around and ask them which they want.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can, I'm not sure, is Thomas Mahagan here? If he is, can he speak? I'm not sure if he's out there.
Mr.
Okay, go
Mahagan?
ahead. I'm not
Okay.
sure if he's out there.
No. No.
No,
Yeah,
So I'll go around, so Commissioner Paris, your choice for out of those 3,
Letitia.
and I'll take a roll.
I would just like to say something. The one we're replacing is Matt Reinhardt, that, with the county council, who was a HOA member of his subdivision. Tom Mahagan is the master HOA of Pelican Bay, over 17 HOAs, and been there for quite a while, so he does have a lot of experience in this as well.
And I'd like to say something in regards to Jessica Blodgett. She is a real estate person, so I think that would be an excellent asset if we would consider her as well. And we only have 1 vote.
Kevin Leclerc, I believe it is pronounced. Kevin Leclerc, Thomas Mahagan.
Mahagan and Jessica Blodgett.
Jessica.
So,
Yeah.
so you're gonna go?
Okay, I can go around. Commissioner Paris. Okay. Commissioner Strickland. Commissioner May.
Jessica Blodgett.
Commissioner Cantu.
Tom Mahagan.
Commissioner Henry. Commissioner Reed.
Jessica Blodgett.
Mayor Derek L. Henry.
Doesn't matter.
We got 4.
Got 4. Tom Mahagan.
Tom Mahagan. Okay, so that's 4-3 for Tom Mahagan. So can we have a motion to appoint, I'm sorry, Jessica Blodgett? Can we have, I'm sorry.
It's Jessica.
Can we have a motion to?
I move that we appoint Jessica Blodgett to the Code Enforcement Board.
Have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Okay, then we're going to move on to item number 11, which is a discussion item. It's the 2023 Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund Programming Plan, a discussion regarding the plan. And Mr. Chief Drew Driscoll will present. I made copies to pass out. We got it. Okay. Oh, he's got a better one.
Good evening. Drew Driscoll, Deputy City Manager, Fire Chief, and in junior high, I was second chair clarinetist. So, yay me. It's always fun fact when you.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And clarinet is cool, so it's okay. So we wanted to First, I want to give a brief overview of what we've done regarding the ARPA funds that we've received. As we heard from our State of the Union address that the Mayor Pashley gave just last week, in fact. So far, $2 million in hurricane recovery, over $500,000 in support for community service providers and nonprofits, $353,000 in various community enhancements from park lighting to the Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune statue, nearly $600,000 dedicated to supporting the development of local youth, $1.5 million dedicated to roof replacements to help preserve our inventory of affordable housing, $1 million for small business beautification, $300,000 towards the development of a small business resource center, $300,000 dedicated to a new public arts program, community events, historic preservation, grant matching, all these items providing for inclusive and holistic recovery of the Daytona Beach community.
Drew, this is not the right document.
You want to take a look
Yeah,
at it?
it's not the right document.
You got this
The
one,
one in portrait mode.
this one.
This one is not the right document. Yeah, Daytona Stadium is not on there. That's not. Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
gonna, some of you,
Yeah, I
sorry.
don't have Daytona Stadium on there. Yeah, that is not the accurate document.
Absolutely.
And I think during our,
Yeah.
I apologize for that, during our pre-agenda hearings,
Yeah.
you all received copies. I didn't get it.
Make
Yeah.
11.
Yeah, that is totally not right.
Hey, good catch. We're on version 17.0. So, and I'll give a brief overview. In fact, don't show that.
No need to put anything on the screen. If we just go through the list real quick.
I have it here.
During our conversations, we have the original $1.875 million that you all have. It's the funds that were $250 and the $300 that were given previously to you all. They've added that in. The Parks and Recreation Master Plan, you all have been discussing that for quite some time now about master planning for the entire city of Daytona Beach. The Jackie Robinson Ballpark improvements are things that we have to do regardless of who plays there. We're part of it. The City Island Rec, Police Department training, and unassigned funds of $500,000. So Drew, go through those to make sure that we have the same thing because this document had the wrong numbers on them.
Yes, once again, the City Commission's own funds, $1.875 million. That's $250,000 per commission zone and $350,000 for the mayor. That allows us to target certain projects within the various zones of the community. The Parks and Rec Master Plan and Design, as the manager explained, this gives us the ability to evaluate and come up with an optimization plan for what our needs are for our parks, venues, and green spaces for the next 5, 10, 20 years. Jackie Robinson Ballpark improvements, that's $670,000. That's a continuation of our effort to maintain a historic ballpark to be a premier community asset. The City Island Recreational Hall rehabilitation, that's $275,000 earmarked for a future renovation project. The thought is to maximize these funds and for these funds to serve as a potential cash match for future grant opportunities. And then lastly, or not lastly, I'm sorry, is the Police Department Training Center, $250,000 proposed to be allocated. This provides for the continued development of our officers with the latest in law enforcement techniques, which has kind of been the cornerstone of providing for the safety of our community. And then lastly is $500,000 that are currently undesignated that the manager has some thoughts on.
Within that 500 unassigned, many of you have been hearing about the tennis courts that need to be redone off of LPGA. We looked at the cost of redoing all of our tennis courts out there because they have been problematic in some of the improvements, and they're about $200 and some thousand that we're hoping that if you all don't want to use those funds for other areas, we can put it towards getting those tennis courts back up to an exceptional place. So that's the unassigned account funds that we talked about being able to, after talking with Michael Stallworth and members of the tennis community, and also some of the coaches out there, that the tennis courts need to be done. And Michael has pulled up the amount of money that would take, and 200 some thousand would be able to be used for our tennis courts to be improved.
It's the clay courts?
Yes.
Okay,
We still have tournaments and things out there too, right?
of course.
Oh, yes. And a lot of
It's just necessary.
Yeah.
It's just a way of taking care of a project. I think it's a reasonable and a good idea.
I agree.
Yeah.
We need to move on this.
No, it's just a part of it.
Well, we will bring it back for approval at the next meeting.
Okay. Yeah,
So,
I do.
No motion.
all right,
All right.
thank you. And it'll be at the next meeting. Put it on the agenda, Drew, for approval.
Great job. Okay, you guys are doing a good job.
That was our last agenda item on the agenda.
All right, at this time, we will hear from the members of the commission. And we start tonight with Commissioner of Zone 1, Ms. Monica Paris.
I'd like to thank the former Commissioner of Zone 1, Ruth Traeger, for coming tonight. Nice to see you here. I also wanted to thank all of the applicants that put in an application for the planning board. It was a tough decision, but I think Mr. Weatherholtz, with his experience, is going to do a good job and be an asset to the board. I also want to thank Rick Brown for all the research that he's been doing on flooding, so I'm definitely going to watch what he sent and see if I could pass along if there's something we could do. The other thing was, also, I wanted to thank Amy Pyle, Ann Ruby, and Sandy Murphy also for bringing to our attention what's going on with the Bike Week plans, and it's a big project, and thank you for being part of that. So last week, I had gone to the Volusia League of Cities, and Paula Reed was there also, and there was a speaker from the Volusia County Green Sustainability and Resiliency, and she made a lot of good points about meeting the needs of today while planning for the future. I hope that maybe we could get staff from planning to look into ways that maybe we could mitigate flood water. They had examples of keeping stormwater on the property with different kind of ways to mitigate water and not have everything go down the stormwater drains. So I'm hoping that's something that we could work on so we can be a city of the future, not just keep doing things the way they've been done. And I think that would really help because we have aging infrastructure. So with this kind of mitigation, I think it would help with what we're going through right now. I know that we're still working to get funding and for the flooding, because I know it's a big project and waiting for that feasibility study. There is going to be a drain program that's coming out that you guys will hear about. And I was also thinking maybe we could do something with the city canals, making sure everything is clear. So once I get more information, I could share that with everyone also. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Strick?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple light items. Lights for the North Street Retention Pond Park are getting closer and closer. Those funds, we have a number on that, so that should be coming. A swing set for older kids for the Snebly Center is coming because we have nothing over there except for like the little kids where you set them up in there and they can't fall out. The big kids are going to get hurt trying to use those. The other thing got me in trouble with Miss Reed. I didn't show for the League of Cities dinner last week. But I was over at Stetson University listening to a speaker by the name of Dr. Robert Young from Western Carolina University. He was speaking on beach erosion and flooding in our area. And I've spoken with the city manager about bringing him in for a workshop or public presentation with public participation. And there will be no charge for that. All we have to do is to call him, our city manager is to send him an email, give him a call, and set that up. And he can come here with areas, well, specific information as far as Volusia County and even Daytona Beach as far as flooding, beach erosion, and sea level rise and those things. And I would like, if everybody is in agreement with that, to approve the city manager to move forward and try to set that up for us here as a local thing for our city, so that moving forward, we at least have some information other than what we hear locally from a nationally known expert, that this is what they do for a living 24/7, 365. And part of his job is to come here and give us that information on that. So there's no charge for it. And if the commission is in agreement, I would like to
Get it done.
move that forward.
Let me say this. I don't, like, in our society, we're moving towards a sort of way people want to control conversation and discussion. And, I personally revile that. And I don't know what the guy thinks. And frankly, I don't care what he thinks. If you have heard him and you think he's someone that we should hear from, then I think we should find a way to, and I don't mean that to be crass, I mean that to say that it doesn't matter what he thinks, whether he agrees with me or disagrees, or not that I have a lot of knowledge. My point is, let's find a way to really inform our residents about it. Do it, but let's find a way to say to all of our neighborhood groups, all of the people who are passionate about this issue, that this is what we're doing to learn and to have a healthy public discussion about something that is, as important of an issue as we have. So I think it's just a great idea. And I'm also impressed that you spent the night at Stetson, because there's so much, we lose sight of the fact that we have universities here, and sometimes we can't always get to those things.
Right.
But, that you did it and it has meaning for our community is commendable.
Well, I had some people say, well, you're passionate about this because of the beach driving issue. I think that we are long overdue to look at what's going to happen, because if sea level's really rising, and I think that it is, beach driving is off the table. Right now, we need to be looking at how we can save our beach, which is our economic, engine right here locally. So if we could get city manager to get that guy in and let us hear the facts as he sees them, we can form our own opinion instead of just making decisions haphazardly or because we're influenced by some outside forces or something.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do we have any opposition to that? I'm in favor.
I don't have opposition, but I have a question for Commissioner Strickland. Was it like a presentation?
Yes.
All right. And our citizenry has been so affected greatly by this. I would suggest that perhaps we open up our Peabody Auditorium and allow him to present to the city, to the citizenry, so they can hear what he has to say as well.
And even if it's not there, but somewhere that you believe that the crowd would, I don't know if that's, not that, but we want a lot of people, so that's the right kind of venue, but whatever venue you all come away with. But yeah, I want everyone to know, and I think Beachside is the right place, doing it on the beachside where it's effective. So that's a good suggestion.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So we're all in agreement,
Yeah.
he can move forward?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted that to be on the record that we were all in agreement, and he could move forward.
Yep. Okay. Commissioner May?
So on Friday evening, Museum of Arts and Science will be hosting an event for Martin Luther King. They're doing a special documentary in the planetarium. Usually they have a documentary that I help support in the small auditorium, but this time the documentary is a little bit different. And along with, I think, 623 Management, they're doing a 7 p.m. showing at the planetarium. It's rare footage, and it should be quite interesting. That's number one. Number two, I've been looking at housing, affordable housing. I would like to speak with the city manager at some point, just letting you know about maybe visiting a particular item that I would like to actually bring closer to City Hall for us to take a look at. It's an interesting concept for housing. It would be something a little bit different, but I think as many ideas as we can bring forward and we can actually see, touch, feel, I think it helps us to define where we're going for housing units, affordable housing, zoning, and what we're moving toward. Also, as we discuss parking, I've been doing a little research, and people have sent me research about pavers that are permeable, and maybe looking toward how we're resurfacing our hardscapes, and can we use different products that allow water to seep directly into the ground. And so I'd like to bring some information forward on that also. So I think all of us are working toward finding some concrete solutions, or at least ideas to keep us thinking. And then finally, I'm still going to bring forward some ideas. Hopefully, the city manager will allow me to do that with regard to what we can do downtown for businesses. And I'm hoping at the next CRA meeting that that's a possibility to help them with flooding, in terms of just an idea. And if we agree with it, we agree with it, and if we don't, we don't. But at least we're continuing to generate information that we can have discussions about. So that's coming forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Cantu?
Yeah, I'll be quick. I just wanted to give a little update because of an important meeting that's going to be happening. On the TPO on March 23rd, 2022, we had moved up LPGA from 92 to Williamson, including the bridge from 2031 to 2035 to 2021 to 2025. Did I get that right? Yes. So that means the design and engineering had started. And then we also partially funded the right-of-way, $7 million, which we approved, and took that away from the design and moved it to the right-of-way. There's an important meeting with FDOT on February 28th at 5:30 at the LPGA Clubhouse, and that's regarding the design. So I'd like to make sure everyone attends.
Okay, good deal.
That's it.
All right, Commissioner Henry?
Just one thing tonight. And I want to thank the mayor and city manager for joining me last week. The book vending machine arrived at Westside Elementary School, and it was the absolute neatest thing. The kids, they get a coin, they go up to it's just like a regular vending machine, only the slots are the size for books. And the kids go in, they put their coin in the machine, they choose a book, and press the button, and the book drops down, and the county librarian came over from the Volusia County schools. So it was just the absolute neatest thing to see. The children were so excited. They got new books. And so that vending machine will be on campus all times. And the good thing about it was that it won't be tied to behaviors. So the goal for the book vending machine was to not be tied to behaviors, because we want children to read no matter what their behaviors are. So they can get a coin for their birthday, they can get a coin for doing something kind to another student or in the classroom, or they can get a coin for reading. And so they are looking for coins. One thing of coin costs $60. So if anyone would like to donate for a thing of coins to help incentivize those, it's a great program to incentivize children to read. And so that's been the goal, is to get books in the hands of children in the community, especially in those underperforming schools. So it was Literacy Week, so it was great to have that opportunity for everyone to come out. We fed all the children. They got Red Lobster, and they got to win tokens for the book vending machine. So I thought we would have some pictures up, because city manager said he would have pictures. But next week, next meeting, I would definitely love to share the video of the children and their excitement. Literally, as soon as the books came out of the vending machine, the children were reading the books. And it just goes to show how much that school is doing to turn around our community in Zone 5 and make literacy important and put it at the forefront of the community. So.
Well, it also shows how serious you are about reading, because the machine was funded by Commissioner Henry using ARPA funds. She neglected to say that.
That was my question.
Yeah, and that's how the machine was funded.
And we got them for both elementary schools. So each elementary school in that zone got a vending machine. And so we'll be reaching out for partnerships to keep those vending machines full with books and seeing if there are nonprofits, or not just necessarily nonprofits, companies that will maybe sponsor a month of the vending machine to keep the vending machine up and running, where the kids constantly have access to those books. So if you would like to buy a vending machine for your zoned elementary school, and actually when the football team came out, because the Mainland football team came out to read to the students, and they saw the vending machine, and they were like, we really want one of these at our school. And so it just goes to show that you think high school students don't read books that way, but they do read books as well, so we'll consider it. If you're Mainland High Schools,
And I
Commissioner.
want to add to that in terms of, it's actually a great idea.
novels, yeah.
Yeah, I want to add to that, because sometimes we think that, well, why do they need to own the book? Well, we give them a toy, so we should give them books. The things that we value, we want them to own. You know, and if it's important, we want them to have their own library. And it's something that, you know, in my home, and one thing I also want, those little libraries that we have at each of the centers, very important. Every time we go to one of those libraries, my daughter gets a book out. Every single time. Now, we filled up each one of them across the city from our own library 2 or 3 times. But the point is that because we fill it up, she also, when she sees it, she's ready to go back and get another book that she's never read. But owning books is important because it says to kids that you having your own library this is something that belongs to you and it stays with you. You go back, you review books, you look at them. When you see a book, I still have 2 books that I had from elementary. One was on Martin Luther King, and one was
I knew he
on
was going to say that book.
Muhammad Ali. Yeah, because I kept them all the way
and
through
Muhammad Ali.
high school. They were the first books I read that I did book reports on. And I kept them my whole life. Now shared them with my own children. So, you know, having your own library just sends a message. So I don't want anyone to think that it's not a value that you can just check books out of the library or read them from your iPhone or from your iPad. Having the actual books in your hand, critical.
And actually, as well, it's twofold in that the books they get used books from that one, but they also get access to new books. And if you're an avid reader, I'm an avid reader. So if you love reading, turning those pages, new crisp pages, it's a different kind of feeling
Kind of experience.
for an experience for children.
Crisp page is different than used. Good point. And that's true.
Commissioner Henry, how many coins do you get for the $60?
I want to think they were about 200 coins.
You're just paying for the coin is what goes in to the machine.
Right.
Yeah, they weren't cheap.
I asked the city manager, and he said, well, would you rather I buy books or coins? And they were like, oh, books. So we were like, we'll ask someone else. But your school could really benefit from a book vending machine because they are one of the low performing schools, right? Her scores, I don't know what.
They came up this year, but they're still challenged Title I and not performing where we want them to perform.
And what school is that?
First Champion.
Champion, okay. And you did West Side and Palm Terrace?
I did West Side and Palm Terrace.
Interesting.
Okay. All right, great. Commissioner Reed.
Yes, sir. I just want to thank the mayor, the city manager, redevelopment department, NAACP, and representatives from FEMA, along with the Daytona Beach Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, for coming out last Monday to discuss flood issues and where are they now, as well as Mr. I always mess his name up, Housing Authority? Charles Woodyard. Woodyard. Yard is hard. For coming out and sharing with us. FEMA was able to still address some of the issues, help with applications, tell people where the application process was, and it was a good 2.5 hours. Also, Pastor Hudson and Mount Bethel Baptist Institutional Church for allowing us to use the church. Commissioner Henry was there, and Commissioner Strickland and Commissioner Paris also accompanied us to that event. It was an excellent turnout. I believe people really got an opportunity to voice and to hear from those of us that are trying to make the change and to know what was going on. I know a lot of people thought that Caroline Village was going to be condemned, but Mr. Woodyard was able to express with us their plan for the Housing Authority and what they're going to do with that. So it was an excellent turnout, and glad that I was able to host that.
What was their plan, if you could tell me?
Well, he's looking at, he's had to displace people, give people vouchers to go somewhere else to stay. But and correct me if you all were there, they're looking at bringing them back. It's not demolished. They are looking at totally rebuilding in the future, okay? So that was our social action thing for last week.
No, we better say not totally rebuilding. They want to bring them back, but they would like to actually
knock it down. That's what
and not rebuild.
Well,
rebuild elsewhere.
Okay,
in another location, and maybe turn that into a retention pond with partnership and that sort of thing.
All right.
Right.
Somebody heard me on that one. All right. For the seniors, when Charles Bryant was here, he used to offer a senior prom, and he's been retired for a few years, and we have not had that. And I had promised to do that, and we got a little behind with our Santa runs and what have you, and our Christmas parade. It was just a little tight for staff, and I don't like to put back staff up against the wall. We like to do things right. So what I'm doing is I'm hosting a senior Valentine's Day dance, okay? It's going to be on the 18th of February, and staff and I we've already been meeting. It's open to all of the current active members of all of our OASIS across the city. So all 5 of our OASIS membership has been identified, and they are permitted to bring one guest. So we're anticipating about 300 seniors getting an opportunity to have a dinner, and just because they've been cooped up as well.
That guest might not be a senior. They may look like somebody young.
Well, if they're in OASIS.
Date night, Agnes Houston, if you're listening. Take my mama.
Exactly. Well, my family's already gotten theirs in as well. So I'm excited about that. They're excited about that. And that's going to be at the Cherry Center.
Me too.
Well, thank you. Also want to remind you that the Seafood Festival is coming back. April 29th, Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune Boulevard will turn into a beautiful display of eatery and itinerant vending for accessories and what have you, and we want the whole city to come out once again. We want to make this bigger and better. So April 29th, Seafood Festival, from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. this year. And then lastly, there's something that I just want to say, and I know we probably can't do that now or do this now, but something in the back of our head. Participating in Volusia League of Cities, I get to go to different cities and have dinner like Commissioner Paris and I were in Pearson, down the long, dark roads last week. I texted my family to let them know where I was, just in case. But I want you to know that the city of New Smyrna, the city of Deltona, and the city of DeLand all have their own city banquet halls. Now, I want you to tell you, staff did an excellent job for me in December when I gave up my presidency of the Volusia League of Cities of turning the Cherry Center into something phenomenal. But when you keep paying for pipe and drape to make it look pretty, the lights and all of that, it's a gym. We're taking away from our kids. They couldn't play basketball that night.
Sure, right.
So that's a center that's meant for our community, for them to come and exercise and utilize. But I really want us, in our future plan, it might be a 5-year plan, to look at a Daytona Beach banquet center so that our citizens, when they want to rent something for weddings, for whatever the case may be, what we rent them for now, that it's not a gymnasium that they're renting, but something nice that we can be proud of, that we can charge people to rent. But something that's nice, that represents.
It's a part of that plan and that location and that master plan. So keep that.
I'll keep it coming, Mr. Mayor. All right.
Because it's got to happen.
Okay. So I just say, this outfit on behalf of Black History Month is from one of my students that's from Senegal, Africa. Her name is Madi Njai. And happy Black History Month. And it's also my daddy's heavenly birthday.
Oh, happy heavenly birthday. this past week, well, you didn't mention the MCDC, or what's that group organization? You didn't mention that when y'all gave out the stuff?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, you should
So
mention that.
MCDC, Midtown Community Development Corporation, gave out, I didn't mention this last week about the bleach and the soap powder? Okay, however, if you look down International Speedway Boulevard, we had the Dr. Martin Luther King banners for Martin Luther King. But now we're going to be recognizing our citizenry, those who have helped African Americans throughout history, who have helped us as a city. And you can see, if you have a copy of the manager's new update, two people that we're recognizing on here are Julia Cherry and a previous predecessor, Buddy Young. So you will know these individuals. There's a little slight history about them, the time that their sunrise and their sunset, and they're all up and down the International Speedway, because although we may know our history, we want people that come through our major thoroughfare to know our history. So take an opportunity to drive down International and look at those banners. And this is like our third year of a banner.
Okay, great job. This week or last week, we had the, what was it, Wilson Foundation.
Yes.
And we all had a really nice time. The city manager did a nice job in his remarks. I was fortunate enough to be one of the honorees, and it was a beautiful evening of raising funds for kids to go to college. I also want to remind you all that on Saturday at 6 o'clock, we have the first ever Mayor's Gala to raise funds for First Step. And I think it's going to be a fabulous evening, and we've raised a lot of money, and we hope to raise even more money that night. But I hope that all of you can attend, or you've made plans to attend, because we have no more tables. Pretty much it's sold out, which I think is a great great accomplishment in the first year. And I want to say that we're making some great strides in our community. I think before the last meeting, you all knew that there was a scheduled basketball game. And the city manager coaches a very talented and wonderful team. And I coach a very smart, disciplined, and dedicated team as well. And the game was packed. The city manager's team, ebb and flow. You know, first quarter, they're up a few points. Second quarter, they're up a few points. Third quarter, they're up a few points. Fourth quarter comes, and the Warriors come roaring back, whoosh, like a mighty wave.
Sound effect.
Pressure defense. Get your man, get your man. We take the lead. Whoosh. They call timeout. They set up a beautiful play. They pass the ball to a kid. He's a kid now, so don't hold it against him. He had not hit a shot the entire game. They threw him the ball. Shoo! Three-pointer. They go up with 39 seconds to go by 3 points. We get the ball. We drive down the court. I say, attack, attack, attack. Kid drives in. He gets fouled. Goes to the free throw line. Shoo! Nothing but net. Shoo! Nothing but net. Daytona Beach. That team, the Warriors, is now down by 1 point. The other team goes down. It's a kid now. We foul him. He goes to the free throw line. I'm rooting for all kids because I root for every kid in the program. Kid goes to the line. Unfortunately, he misses the free throw. The Warriors grab the rebound. They bring the ball down the court. Pass it to the left side. Kid fakes right. Drives left. You know how hard it is when you're 9, 10 years old to drive with your left hand? because you used to just dribbling with your right hand. He drives left, shoo, scoops it up, 2 points, 6 seconds left. Whoa, everybody's jumping around. Their team drives down the court. They missed a shot. The Warriors win. But you know what? His team didn't win. We shook hands after the game. And the most impressive part of the night, and this is what I want Daytona Beach to always remember, was that every one of his kids on his team shook hands, looked me in the eye, looked my team in the eye. They may have cried, but their sportsmanship was unusual, and it was appreciated. And when you have men and women teaching, coaching, mentoring, showing kids how to win and lose, they carry that with them for the rest of their lives. Good job, manager. Good job. And maybe we'll see you in the championship.
And John Nicholson really enjoyed that game.
Did it?
He was like, it's getting serious.
John was on my side the whole time. Don't do it. Do not do it. Do not do it. Y'all gonna be in trouble.
1, 2, 3.
I told you. Shut him up.
That's it. It really was a good game, and I'm glad that the mayor encouraged me to coach the other team because it is a great Parks and Rec is doing an exceptional job, and we were talking earlier that there's some other community leaders that you will know their names who have said they're going to step up next year and be a part of the coaching staff for many of the teams. And I must say, I've actually enjoyed it. They keep me calm because I have to realize that I'm the city manager. When the kid keeps throwing the ball on the wall and I tell him to stop throwing the ball on the wall, I have to remind myself I can't touch this kid. It's not when my mom would tell the coach to grab me, but it was a good game, and he's right. But I think we're doing a great job, and I want to applaud the work that me being a coach, I truly have been able to see the work and the value that the Parks and Rec department provides to this community, to see the dedication they have. So being there is good, but I also seen what I can get more stuff for my team when they play. Just, deflate balls and everything. So I did that. But that's all.
All right. Great job. Mr. Attorney?
I neglected to say, Mr. Manager, that if you'd like to be there on Friday at noon, under the overhang of the athletic department, I don't know what you call it. The CCE?
No.
It's the one on the street.
Yeah, the Civic Engagement
It's the Civic Engagement Center. Right next to the graduate school. We're going to be recognizing those families whose banners are posted along the highway. So the families will be there, and there's a brief program on Friday at noon to recognize the unveiling of the historical banners for this year.
All right. Okay, we will now hear from the residents of Daytona Beach.
Okay. Our first speaker is Patricia Hurd, and on deck is Marjorie Johnson.
Bring it, Ms. Hurd. Give it to him.
She say something?
Say don't leave. She told you don't leave.
I told you to leave because I was coming up. Good afternoon.
No, ma'am.
Patricia Hurd, 822 Vernon Street. I don't have too much to say tonight, but today is February 1st. Bike Week, MLK Main Street. I have been noticing the work that is being done on Main Street. I just want to tell you, don't forget Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune Boulevard, because we have been asking the city to redo the trees that's there, leaning over and everything. And you need to go down and check it out.
Yes, ma'am.
Because we are busy down there.
Okay.
In the works, when is Days of Stocking Park going to start working over there?
We're asking that same question, aren't we?
Okay. You know, that is Midtown. And I can tell you the history of Midtown, right? Right. Okay. Zone 6 and Zone 3, I believe. I would like to have a copy of the rezoning because I don't go along with dividing international on one side and international on another side for the zone. Okay, I'm talking about BCU. You know, we can't help where the kids' dormitory is and things like that. And I would like for y'all to look into that again before doing so. There is so much going on this month, and hopefully I'll be able to share some of it with you. Now, February 18th, you say that's senior night. Well, I'm not a senior. Okay, so I won't be there. Someone laughed at me. But I'm glad things are being done in the city and the people are involved. Going back to Midtown, MLK, I'm still speaking of Cedar Street, Park Drive, that area there. It needs to be cleaned up. In front of that store, we don't have any more yellow gold lines anymore. They're all blue, black, gray, where people park. That's a dangerous curve. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Hurd, I'd like to thank you for agreeing to remain on the Beautification Board representing Zone 6. Thank you for allowing me to reappoint you.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Miss Reed.
Oh, you're welcome. And then I have a question. Do we still have the community cleanup groups that were going around? We don't have those any longer? Who's saying no?
He said no.
Need somebody up here that knows.
I don't know.
Okay, we'll have to look into that because there were some people that volunteered that went around.
The community cleanup.
Yeah.
By zones, it was.
Well, we did a community cleanup by zones as a commission, but there were individuals that did it without us. I can't recall.
Okay, our next speaker is Marjorie Johnson, and on deck is John Nicholson.
Marjorie Johnson, 122 South Key Street. I'd like to address the fact that Amy Powell and Ruby came out here and gave some erroneous comments about the information about Bike Week, the Bike Week plan. They stated 5 when there was only 1. Turner Hines just got out of the hospital. She was sick, and she turned in her information tonight before you all got a chance to vote on it. So we don't need to complain about Mary McLeod Bethune Boulevard vendors because they have all met the guidelines. I mean, you come up here and complain about these people, then that makes it look like you're only complaining about the people on Mary McLeod Bethune. And that was not necessary. And she did get the information in, and I didn't think it was right to complain about that. Also, I'm here tonight to speak about what happened at the last meeting concerning Danette Hendry speaking out of terms when I got up and made the statement that I had advocated to get you in the very seat, Mayor Hendry, that you're in for the special election, and that's how you all benefited. She benefited from that because she's sitting over there in that seat. And there were over 1,160 people that voted against her for Malcolm Williams. And that means that they're not satisfied with the work that she's doing over there in Zone 5. And Malcolm has been doing a great job over that zone there, meeting with those constituents and meeting with the people. So what she did was very, very disturbing, and it was inappropriate. But she has benefited from the work that I did, and Genesis tells everybody she got us our jobs because she got up and advocated for a special election, got Ann over here and made them have that vote so that she could and you could sit in the seat you're in. So we don't want people in here speaking out of terms. She had not been recognized, and it was highly out of order. And I also like to say tonight that we are not satisfied with the fact that when Bike Week come up, you got stringent rules for those people over there. And the people on the Beachside are doing a lot of things that they're not supposed to. But tonight, there was a lot of focus on that here at this podium, and we want to treat all of our vendors with respect. And also, we're making great strides in this community, and you talked about the game. I would like to see you make great strides with this flooding. That my classmate Libby Coleman lost everything in her house. She had to put all her beautiful furniture out. That pond in the back should have been drained. It's right behind her house. She came to my house crying because she felt that y'all had not addressed it. So let's get this problem fixed.
Our next speaker is John Nicholson, and on deck is Frederick Brown.
John Nicholson, 413 North Cranberry Avenue. Ms. Hurd, you may not be a senior, but you are definitely over 30. Secondly, love her to death, but two things. One, on City Island, the tennis courts, they're in disrepair. They may have to be torn down. We are looking at spending $200,000 at the tennis center. Bethune-Cookman College at one point wanted an additional 2 courts because to hold their tournaments, those 6 courts were not enough. It created a problem. I'm wondering if we can look into the tennis center. Do we use all of those clay courts? If we're going to redo the clay courts and it's not fully used because the tennis center has moved, the Florida Tennis Center, I'm sorry, if we can possibly turn 8 of those courts into cement courts so Bethune-Cookman could have their tournaments out there.
Can't do that.
Why not?
But
If we're going to redo them anyway. So, secondly,
you wouldn't turn a clay court into a tennis court. Go ahead.
yeah, you just
It's a lot of work and not a good idea. You've invested in them. They're clay
all right,
courts
all
for
right,
a reason.
All right, Mayor. Time.
Stop his time.
I stopped it.
Okay.
Okay, I was just
Thank
trying
you.
to help you. You asked me, I was
Oh, I know.
telling you. Okay.
But the time goes.
Give him his time.
Secondly, yes, I did go to the basketball game. I was invited, and there were not a lot of residents there that would normally have gone. I was expecting to see more people, and I was going to sit behind the city manager's bench, and he said, no, the action is going to be down there, because the mayor has a tendency to run up and down the court. And the mayor said, oh, yeah, I do. So it really was a fun time, and more people should go out and watch those kids. And third, the redistricting. There is in the new Hometown News, a section, like 5 pages, of construction and what's being built in the city of Daytona Beach and Volusia County. There are like 2,000-3,000 houses and units being constructed as we speak. There are another 5,000 to 7,000 that's coming down the pike. The redistricting is 3 years past tense. When I talked to the city staff, they said, oh yeah, well, they're going to be houses in Margaritaville. Well, no, they're not going to be in Margaritaville. They are there. So the idea that we are going to sit there and do our redistricting, and as soon as we pass it, one zone will have, instead of 11,000 people, we'll have 19 or 20,000 people because of the way we zone it.
No.
So we have to look at the zones, not past tense. Existing zones have to be existing equality, not they used to be okay 3 years ago. So we have to look at the idea that we are going to redistrict with the population we now have. We have more than 71,000. I think you can talk to Mr. Fiacher. The last figure I heard was 78,000. So we have to do that. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Frederick Brown, and on deck is Thomas Copeland.
Try to make it move a little bit faster. You said it was kind of slow earlier. So. Frederick Brown, 1508 Crescent Ridge. Unfortunately, I only have 3 minutes to talk about this. First, let me cover the Parks and Recreation. And Commissioner Reed, the problems with the online links were long before the revision. I'm looking forward to that revision. but all the data prior to 2016 and after 2019 is just non-existent. So it's something that hopefully it will get cleaned up. So, and it's good to see that the On the Move newsletter, after 5 months of a hiatus, has finally been published in the city manager's letter that I received today. Buried in the 198-page city comprehensive plan, which I know you all have read from top to bottom, on page 114 is objective 1.5, which is the Parkland Enhancement Plan. And that was originally requested back in 2000, that it will be complete by 2000. Nothing happened. And then in the year 2015, they said it should be complete by 2015. Again, I still have yet to see the Parkland Enhancement Plan. The overall plan states that there is to be 3.5 acres per 1,000 residents. As we just talked about, our city continues to grow. We continue to grab, as we just did tonight, further west. So again, Parks needs to catch up with that. Because of my lack of time in this, I want to talk about something that's extremely important to the city. And I've been preaching about this now for basically since the flood. The Dutch answer, and I provided you all copies of the links. I hope you get a chance to see these videos, especially start out with a 60-minute special. It's only 14 minutes and 44 seconds. I put all the times out there, I put all the links for you to watch it. But one guy that really stands out is Hank Ovink. He is an international expert, not just a national or state. He is an international flood expert. And the advice he gives you in that 60-minute special, and later on, I gave you his contact information. And Ken, I like what you were doing about that speaker, Mr. Young from Western Carolina. You really need to invite Hank Ovink to Daytona Beach. In that special, you'll also see how it helped some other cities. Hoboken was badly flooded in Sandy, and he came in and they've done a multi-million-dollar project to straighten that out. Again, it's common sense. Please take this to heart. It's what we need to do here at Daytona Beach to save the city. The rest of it doesn't matter if we don't save our city. Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is Thomas Copeland, and on deck is William Biddorf.
Good evening, Mayor and distinguished members of the City Commission, as well as the City Attorney, Mr. Robert, how you spell it, Jagger or Jager? Jagger. Jagger, like Mick. Mr. Mayor, over the years, I've been involved in a lot of things in this city. And something about me that many of you do not know, but I have a background in real estate. I have a background in the mortgage business. I have a background in the insurance business. I have every kind of license but a fishing license, okay? With that being said, I don't know how many of you knew my parents, but my mom was in real estate. My dad was an entrepreneur for many, many years. And they've both been received in heaven. And now, so I'm here and I'm trying to carry on their legacy. So, like Paul said, although I will to do right, he was always present. I am not perfect, but I'm on a perfect mission. And I want to say this to all of you. When you point your fingers at somebody, you have 3 more pointing back at yourself. Amen. So I'm here to acknowledge that I'm not perfect, and I do make mistakes. But if I see something that I don't think is proper, I'm going to speak out against it, because that's the legacy that my parents molded me to carry out. So let me speak with specificity, if I may. There's been an ongoing issue with code enforcement in my properties. Okay, I took my money and my ex-fiance's money and invested those monies in neighborhoods which I grew up in. I'm a Spartan, I'm a Buck. We went to Mainland, we went to Campbell. I'm from the, the dirt. And I bought those properties for a reason, because I wanted to invest back into the community that I came from. Now, what I ran into, rather than a lot of cooperation, I ran into a lot of aggravation, unnecessary aggravation. I've sent a plethora of communications to all of you all. Whenever I send something out, I copy everybody for a reason, because I'm building a dossier. It's a paper trail for a reason. Kind of ironically, the assistant city attorney had something to say about the plethora of correspondences that I was sending, that I was inundating. And I said, listen, the reason why I'm sending so many correspondences is because you're not replying to public records requests, because I feel, and this is a personal opinion, that things that are not being done decent and in order are being camouflaged and trying to be hidden, which is why I've created this paper trail. So I just want to say this. The documents have been submitted. Everybody has been copied. I would encourage you, Mr. Mayor, as the leader of the city, and you, Mr. City Manager, and you as well, Mr. Attorney, to get together and have a conversation about what's going on, because I'm trying to be thoughtful to the community, because whatever I do against the city or with the city, I'm a part of the city, I'm a part of this community. So I don't believe in, cutting off my nose despite my face. Thank you.
Our next speaker is William Bidoff, and on deck is Malcolm Williams.
Hello, my name is William Bidorf. I live at 402 East International Speedway Boulevard. I can't talk. He looks much better to me. He has a nice suit and everything. So, essentially, two things. Thank you both for what you do for the kids in our community. The mentorship program. I was very impressed. One thing is, it got brought up about Bike Week, and a lot of us look at it different ways. For years, families have been depending. Most of the people I know have been depending on Bike Week to make a living, to carry them out throughout the year for their small business. Okay, majority of the people in Daytona that I have met are under the poverty level, which I try to give work to. So a lot of times that's why I was trying to be part of the Bike Week master plan, was to be able to do vending and help locals and to provide jobs for locals that wanted to do food trucks and things of that nature. But there's nothing negative to say other than just think of the positive. Think of the families that depend on that income to pay their property taxes to us and to stay here. I'm saying if you have somebody involved with their home for parking, at least if they own the home, not if they're renting, but if they own the home, maybe they could get a permit to try to help them pay their bills. Because right now, through the COVID, we had the hurricanes, the floods, the whole world's been standing on everybody's neck. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to tell you, I'm also working to try to do long-term development there, which I'll be glad to, which I would definitely need your input and the input of Ken and hopefully the city manager. But the most important thing is we're here today, and I realize how tired I am, and I know you all are tired, and each one of you. And I'm not going to get all emotional, but God bless you all for it. I have respect for all of you, a lot, because you dedicate yourselves a lot more than most of us could ever imagine on your free time. Many of you I've called. I've actually been there where you're trying to save the church down the road, and I was there with you then, and I've seen you around, and Ken around, and Monica. We go to the citizens meeting, and it's a lot of fun, and I'm learning a lot. But I've learned as a small business owner, and I don't have much time, but to tell you is, I've learned a lot from you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, and I have a lot of respect for you. And just please think of the problems paying their bills. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Malcolm Williams, and on deck is Ann Ruby.
Good morning, Daytona. I wanted to wait until our commissioners came back, because I've said it once and I'll say it again. I think that it's just so disrespectful when they're not here for the citizens' comment. We do understand this is a business meeting, but I don't know, that just irks my nerves. Good evening, everybody. I just wanted to remind you guys, as we look at community focus and some of the things that we want to see done in our community, I just want to put a highlight of things in your ears. When when it concerning this COVID funding, I know we are excited about it, and we've gotten a little off track from the funding. And here's what I say that. When we first got this funding, we went through workshop after workshop after workshop, and this community came together and said, this is what we wanted to do with this funding. Some of it has been done, and some of it has not. I would like to see an update for us as the citizens of what has been done and what has not been done, especially when it's allocated towards each commissioner. And we can please do something like that. With these boards, a lot of these boards feel like they are not being heard. We meet just like the commission does. We are in our meetings. We do the work. But it seemed like once the meeting is over, y'all don't even know about half the stuff that we talk about. So I don't know if there's a process to make sure that the commissioners are getting a copy of the minutes, because a lot of stuff that you guys come up with as commissioners, your word matter. Y'all can sit on this dais and say, hey, I would like to do A, B, and C. And the next city commission meeting, it's on the agenda, it's getting done. We sit in those board meetings month after month and week after week, giving suggestions and ideas, and we don't see none of it come to light. So I just want to remind you guys of that in a little bit. In July, this city will be celebrating 147 years of incorporation, 153 years of its existence. And I brought to you guys the Santa Run, so there's another thing that I will be bringing to your attention, and it'll be about celebrating the citizens now. There's a traveling photography out of New York that has been traveling around the country. They have never once thought about stopping in Daytona. I reached out to them, and they actually thought it was a good idea and couldn't figure out why they have never done it before. And so I will be reaching out to each commissioners to see if we can try to, as a community and as a city, make something shake. At the same time, I think we are missing the opportunity to celebrate those people that give Daytona a good light. Ryan Lockley, our famous Olympic swimmer, was just on the Traders Peacock Original Series, made us look good. The Saute Kings were on the Great Food Truck Race, made Daytona look good. Yet we do not celebrate those people that live here. If we can try to figure out something that for them. Our deputy city manager, as we call her, Ann Ruby, asked a $34 million question earlier today. Well, I want to trump her with one, and it's a $3 million question. Are we redoing the locker rooms at Daytona Stadium? If I can have a written response for that, I will greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Our next speaker is Ann Ruby, and on deck is Amy Pyle.
Ooh, somebody left a peppermint. Ann Ruby, 137 Park Avenue. My comments on item 10F were part of a C4D project driven by the detailed review of the master plan by Amy. Amy does a diligent review for so many years, and I think the only reason that we've seen any improvement in the submitted plans is because of Amy's review and Amy's questions. And I think it's important to remember that we're not interested in targeting any one applicant. We are interested in making sure that the rules are applied equitably, and that just has not happened. But ultimately, we're interested in making the bike events thrive, and in making sure that our core areas are redeveloped into active, vibrant destinations. We need to develop rules that are enforceable and apply them equitably. When it comes to the beach, I think having Dr. Robert Young come and speak is a great idea. I attended with Sandy and Andy Holmes and Jenny Nazak. We attended the active transportation plan. It was a day-long meeting last Friday. And what we learned there was how the way we think about transportation in our city can change how our city functions and grows. And that it relates to the health of our residents. It makes such a difference. And I think we should have their keynote speaker was Billy Hadaway, and he was a former chair of the Orlando Department of Transportation, and he's currently the chair of, I wrote it down here, the chair of the Bike Walk Central Florida group. And he gave some fantastic examples. And I think, and in that meeting, they recommended a book called Walkable City by Jeff Speck, which I'm reading, and it's phenomenal. It's just amazing. The more roads you build, the more cars you get. You can never road build your way out of congestion. You need to build bike trails, mass transit that are gonna move people in ways, and then you need to set up the communities in ways that people are encouraged to walk. encouraged to use alternate transportation. And to that end, I think it would be helpful for you to learn from what some of the things that Billy Hadaway had to say, because you give guidance to how our plan developments are set. And the way we're doing plan developments now, when you look at the site plans, they're not healthy, they're not conducive to healthy transportation, to walkability. So I think the policies that you're setting today on the beach, the policies that you're setting today for planned developments need to be reconsidered, and you need just for the shaping the future of our city. And the same thing with the Bike Week Master Plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Amy Powell, and on deck is Tawana Johnson.
Amy Pyle, 136 South Grandview. I just want to make sure everybody understands that I sit on the master plan task force started out as a representative of the BNW because Frank Heckman was, kind of not going to the meetings and stuff. And I don't know that any of you have ever sat in on one of the master plan task force meetings that I've been at, but it's all people who have applications in the plan or they have events. Maybe there's a guy from the Speedway. And then there's little old me, who has no skin in the game and nothing except that I live 2 blocks from Main Street. And I'm the kind of person that looks at things and I need them to make sense for me. So from the beginning, and there's no minutes from these meetings, by the way. You can't look back and see what was talked about. I only realized that at the last meeting. But not every single meeting, often, I would be the one at the end that would say, why is that like that? Or why are we, and I've picked on Teresa Doan, I've picked on the Tragers, I've mentioned things about, we started to pointing out the code enforcement issues, and so now we make sure that buildings are up to code before they're allowed to participate, that kind of thing. So there's been a lot of changes along the way based on, my noticing things in the master plan. So if that's not something that we want, then maybe, I need to understand that. But if I bring stuff up, it's not personal. It's just that I want it to make sense. And the thing right now, because I only get a few minutes at this meeting, the most glaring thing is that we're starting to kind of rearrange things in the master plan. They've added a new section now. They've pulled some things out. The SAMA section's getting smaller. But I still don't understand why these 5 items under SAMA are not individual applications. And I've never been able to get a clear answer on that. And some people are starting to come, there used to be 11. People are now making their own applications. So why are these not individual applications with the same things that Main Street merchants have to put into their applications? Because like Main Street Merchants Association can't get 11 people together and do one application. See what I'm saying? So I just want it to kind of make sense, and I've never really gotten a good explanation some of the things that, Rose and Mr. Morris would get up and talk about, it's like you're not really getting the full story unless you actually look. The thing is this thick, and I know you don't want to read it all, but I try to kind of at least email with some of the oddball stuff. And I'm going to keep doing that until I get kicked off the task force.
Our next speaker is Tawana Johnson, and on deck is Doyle Lewis.
If I might just interject, when you think about being fair, the businesses on Main Street are open all the time. The agreement that we've had with SAMA has been over the years, and it's been because of the situation with the lack of businesses there and what have you. So the difference, and I don't know what that list of 5 is for Amy, but you can also go right to the source. Mrs. Himes is here tonight, and you can ask her why has it been different. And if she'd like to come up and speak, you need to fill out one of those green sheets. But you can't always treat people the same and be fair. You've got to recognize the historical reason behind it, and you've got to have equity in how you treat folks. And I think that's why it has been a difference. And I guess we're looking at that now. And And there are still some concerns about what we've done in the change. You want to come up and speak, Ms. Himes? Got to do a little green sheet. You can speak
She
first.
can, yeah, let her speak first, and then we'll fill it one out for her.
Turner Himes, 612 Byron Avenue, Daytona Beach, Florida. Good afternoon, commissioners. One of the things that, to me, is being overlooked. Number one, for years, up until really 2 years ago, SAMA held a festival permit. We were all under the same because we do not have the space. I heard someone earlier say it needs to be a level playing field. That's impossible. I don't have vendors that can send me $10,000 and I hold a spot for them. All of our vendors are inspected. Now they have put us in a position that we can't survive, not under the conditions we are under. Because now instead of having 15 food vendors, we're stuck with 8. That's all we can have. We don't have a big parking lot that people can come and park. We have to use individuals. And for as the Harry, Peter, and Larry, that's the way they want it. But their partial number is on there. Before, we never had to get the authority in writing. We're doing that now. So it has been a complete change. And all I want is for the city and whoever think it should be a playing field, why don't they come out there and look and see for themselves before they start seeing what should be? Because if you're not in it, you don't know what's going on. Amen. And this is what's happening to us now.
Okay.
So if I can answer any questions, I will. But that's the reason we were under this, because we had a festival permit to do that.
So you weren't a part of the master plan, you were your own festival.
Right.
And then you had to act accordingly to the festival.
Right, we had a festival permit to do this. Now it's being chopped, split, and everything. So all I can say is just beware and be ready.
Okay.
Our next speaker is Tawana Johnson, and on deck is Doyle Lewis.
We already called
Tawana?
Tawana. She wasn't.
I don't think, okay. Our next speaker is Doyle Lewis, and on deck is Kimberly Mount. Is she still here? Okay, go ahead, Mr. Doyle.
Good evening. Doyle Lewis, Daytona Beach, United States. I've only had a couple things to come here tonight to talk about until the Bike Week thing came up. So my very first thing is the beach. You can't miss it. You can't say it's not there. It's huge. You got plenty of mileage in Daytona Beach on the beach in the storms. I was in Flagler Beach. They're having to rebuild their pier. It's completely destroyed except for about 100 feet. I was in the meeting. They were talking about the storm surges. They were talking about the 100-year storms. They were talking about the 20-year storms. They were talking about the insurances. And they were also talking about the leases, how to have a pier. They gave plenty of options, and they were trying to get all the people to talk in Flagler Beach and probably Flagler County on how to rebuild that pier. They've got a lot of things going, but they've been trying to do this for years to get a new pier. Haven't heard anything about Daytona and the pier. I hope it doesn't end up like Ormond Beach and losing the pier completely. I hope y'all have something in mind because your pier is damaged again. The only way to really keep a pier in place without damage is to rise it above the waves. The waves are getting larger, the storms are coming faster. You get a major storm that really hurts this area every 8 years now, instead of 50 years, 100 years. They're coming faster and quicker. So let's just take a look at that and see how the pier is going to come out of that. Because without a pier, you're going to lose a whole lot of people. I hope Flagler Beach pulls it together. It's going to be a lot of work. It's probably going to take 3 to 6 years to do a concrete pier. Now, parks, they're behind schedule. I suggest you actually look at a large piece of land to get a large park. The only place you're going to be able to get it is west. If you start a park out there, or at least start looking for one, Bike Week is having a huge problem growing. Y'all are having growing pains. You don't have enough parking. There's no place to go except west. Find a park that you can build out there, straight west from this building. Get ready for that Bike Week. Thank you.
I got a question for the city attorney. If let's just say that we have a property that has vending or food court or something on it that does not have owner's permission, if someone were to slip and fall, trip and fall, whatever, who's liable for
A trip and fall on private property?
Yeah, but they don't have permission to have, we don't have permission, documented permission of the owner of the property to use it for that.
So if there's an injury on private property, that's a private matter for the property owner to handle.
Okay.
The city would have no liability if that's what you're getting at.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next speaker is Tawana Johnson, and on deck is Kimberly Mount. Okay. We need the microphone. Guys can, they're going to bring down the microphone. Thank you, John.
No, I'm going to speak on her behalf.
No, what?
She had a stroke. She can't articulate. And that's part of the issue why she's here. Okay. As you can see, I'm sorry.
I'll allow it this time in the future. I would prefer written correspondence, but it's okay.
Well, she's paralyzed also on the right side.
Okay.
So
Go ahead.
that's why I'm here being an advocate for her.
All right.
It's the least of these. We treated the least of these. It's how we treat the least of these is what I'm saying. She's been through a lot, and I'm here to be an advocate for her.
Okay.
So first and foremost, she is a resident of Caroline Village, and she had to move because of the storms. And I applaud the lion's share of the people from the housing authority because I think they were doing the best they can with what they have. I think in a time of emergencies like this, someone like Ms. Johnson has been moved 5 times. But for the fact that, we used to have a church in Zone 6. I helped build School Street Church, God and Gripe with BCR money, okay? And she's a resident from over there. So I think it's incumbent upon us just not talk about it, but be about it. She needs help. And so I stepped in to help her and her son to continue to move around. Here's the problem. There's no ADA accommodations in Caroline Village. There were inappropriate ADA accommodations in every hotel that she's been in. But for the fact that I've been an advocate for her, she would just be in dire straits. So these are the things that we're saying that I want to call to your attention, that instead of turning on each other, we need to turn to each other. Because this is a problem in our community. It's not just her problem, not just your problem, not just her problem, it's our problem. So I just say rising tides lift all boats. And Commissioner Reed, I did leave you a voicemail. I'm not sure if you called me back because I don't I've been a little busy and checking my messages and whatnot. But nevertheless, and I left you one as well. And it was about her. This is what I left you guys a voice message about. So whatever we can do in order to move forward, I don't know where we are right now with this because I don't want to overstep my lane. All I want to do is just be a part of the problem rather than part of the solution. So, like I said, she really is not articulate enough for you to be able to decipher what she's saying, but this is Ms. Tawana Johnson. So whatever we can do, open for suggestions, and like I said, I'd rather be a feather in your cap than a thorn in your side. All righty, that's it for my part. And you good with that? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Our final speaker tonight is Kimberly Mount.
Kimberly Mount, Daytona Beach. Each and every one of you have a very hard job, and you hear a lot of negativity. So I want to first start with saying thank you for your hard work, your dedication, your commitment, and the compassion that you have shown Daytona and Midtown during these past few months, especially after the hurricanes. I wanted to bring to your attention today a issue in Daytona Gardens, also known as Soul City, to many residents. There is a lot of mold still there, and the residents, a few of them are afraid to come out because they think they'll be evicted, which of course we know that's not possible. But a young lady that I met recently asked for me to come and speak on her behalf. Regarding the mold, they're spraying the walls and the mold comes back. So I know that is something that code enforcement can handle, not everyone sitting here today. And I know you guys are on it, and you guys have done an amazing job. So please continue the hard work you're doing in that regards, because it's a battle that we have to come together and make it happen. Secondly, a couple of years ago, I came and asked about street paving on a couple of streets, and they still have not been done yet. One of them is Live Oak. It's like a roller coaster. And I get motion sickness, so even when I drive, that's a challenge for me. So please, if you, each of you, as your duty to help the people, take a drive down Live Oak, which is right off of Martin Luther King Boulevard. It's like a roller coaster, and it really needs some repair. And the second is Wallace Street. These roads are all connecting to Martin Luther King, which is one of my personal heroes. And I personally think that every street connecting to Martin Luther King should be paved. And these haven't been paved in quite a long time. So those are the two things that I wanted to discuss today. Thank you again for your hard work and your dedication and your commitment to the residents of Daytona Beach. Have a good evening.
Excuse me. There are some phone numbers I could probably get for you where if you need to file a complaint about fair housing with the state, that you can actually do that, and it goes as far as DC. So I will get your number, and I'll try to get you those phone numbers. Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations on raising such an articulate and smart child. God bless each of you, and may God bless the city of Daytona Beach.